Everyone, and welcome to another episode of the EPO Spotlight Series. I'm Wendy Limbertie, Marketing Director for the Etobicoke Philharmonic Orchestra, and today we're very excited to introduce you to one of the composers featured on our upcoming concert on March 27th. Our guest today is Montreal-based composer Charles-Vincent Lemelin, and whose work Mélangerie sur la mousse. I'm sorry for not pronouncing it properly, and I'll let you, Charles, pronounce it properly in a second. And this piece will be performed on the program. So Charles holds a degree in composition from the University of Montreal and is currently pursuing his master's degree under the direction of renowned composer Anna Skolovic. And his music draws from the landscapes and seasons of Quebec, and is known for its atmospheric textures, sound masses, and evocative sonic landscapes. And so every other year, the Etobicoke Philharmonic invites submissions of original orchestral compositions from Canadians 32 years and under, which are evaluated by an expert panel of judges. And Charles is the grand prize winner of this year's EPO Young Composer Competition. In the peat bog, I will lie down on the moss is the English translation. Charles, can you pronounce it for us and introduce yourself?
Dans la tourbière, je m'allongerai sur la mousse.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. And you're located in Montreal or?
Yeah.
In Montreal right now. Yeah, well, we have beautiful weather here in Toronto today, which isn't going to last. Of course, it's going to change tomorrow, but that's March for you. So to begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first became interested in composing music?
I started becoming interested when I was a old child, early teenager, when I was 11 or 12. I was really interested in Russian composers' music, so like Tchaikovsky and all this kind of large-scale Russian instrumental music. And then I started listening. I sort of fell down the rabbit hole. I started listening to Stravinsky, going deeper and deeper, and until finding things like Ustvolskaya, and discovering nicher and nicher composers until I I fell into it and wanted to do. And sometime I said, I want to do this with my life. I want to try and write music for orchestras like they did.
And did you start as an instrumentalist before you started composing? Are you still playing something?
I'm currently doing my undergrad degree at the conservatory in piano interpretation. So yeah, I started as a pianist, if you will, but it's always been clear to me that composition was my field.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So now you're saying you studied at the Université de Montréal, and you're now continuing your studies with composer Anna Skolovic. And yes. Thank you so much for the pronunciation correction. So, how has your education influenced the way you think about music and composition?
I've met, during my studies, composition studies don't exist. I don't know. I'm from not the real countryside. I'm not from Montreal. I'm from I don't know how to say. The region, we call it région in French, the région. I'm not from this.
Kind of a rural area of Montreal, outside of Montreal, like
Quebec
a
City,
suburb?
It's a rural area of Quebec City where I'm from.
Oh, Quebec City, okay.
Yeah. And so there was absolutely no composers, no composition education available before I got to university. So when I came to Montreal and started studying composition at the Université de Montréal, I started meeting actual living human beings who were composers. So it's been really influential, learning what it means to be a composer today, to see them in action, to see them sharing their experience and knowledge. So yeah, I've met a few great composers that I'm really grateful for meeting, that have been really influential on my music. For instance, maybe we'll talk about it later, but in the piece that the EPO will be playing, it I feel like the influences of the orchestration I was taught in the Université de Montréal is so obvious. It's so French. Like it's so much because at the Université de Montréal we sort of cultivate this tradition of French orchestration. We study a lot Debussy, Ravel, and Stravinsky, who isn't French, but our orchestration is really centered around these composers. And I feel like it's obvious that I learned from these people and from my
And
teacher who learned studying these people.
yeah, well, and also one of the most interesting things about your work is that how often the listeners describe it as being deeply connected to the landscape of Quebec. And so let's talk a little bit about the nature and the landscape influences the way you imagine sound and how it is coming through in your music. And I can only basically, like, if I share the music from Mahler, where Mahler is in his little cabin and he's composing and he's listening to the sounds of the forest, the sounds of the mountains, the sounds of the cowbells from the cows, and just that whole atmosphere that you can really hear when you listen to Mahler or when you listen to Dvorak, who writes an awful lot of folklore tunes and things like that. So when you compose and you often begin with an image, or do you feel connected to nature? How does this turn into music?
I could not explain exactly how the process goes, but I feel like it's not necessarily like the landscape as a picture that inspires me. It's more the experience I make of the territory. So, for instance, I have spent many a lot of time on the North Shore, which is a region north of the St. Lawrence River, where the nature is so, what's the word?
I don't know, say it in French.
I can't think of it in French.
Oh, okay.
It's like it it's such a sober aesthetic. It's not luxuriant. Can you say luxuriant? Like,
Like,
trees are small, plants are small, animals are hidden. You can't see them. Everything is like so
yeah.
épuré, so elegant. It's very elegant in a way because it's all it's in retenue. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say.
Okay, so obviously we'll have to grab some Google Maps and take a look at the area and see what the vegetation's like, what you're trying to describe, maybe the difference between a giant forest in northern Ontario or northern Quebec compared to a place that is serene and not so bombastic and just everything is sweet and pretty. So, your music is also described and being characterized by slowness and micropolyphony and the use of sound masses. So, for listeners who may not be familiar with those terms, could you explain the micropolyphony and the sound masses meant in your music and how they shape the listening experiences?
Yeah. First off, I want to precise, for instance, the slowness that is very important in my music is linked to the experience of the territory. This is what I mean by the territory is not, it's not luxuriant, it's not going fast. Everything is slow. It's slowed down by the winters, by
Right.
things don't grow rapidly on this territory,
Uh,
which is why my music is slow. It is in this way that I think it is a lot influenced by the territory. Micropolyphony and the use of sound masters. What I mean by that is exactly in the same way that plants, there are layers of thing on the ground on Earth. Like life is composed of many things intertwined. You can't necessarily always see one thing precisely, and this is really inspired by Ligeti. Like I don't well, the piece that will be played by the EPO is a counter example, but usually I don't use a lot of melodies, or I don't use a lot of recognizable themes, because I like having creating music that is more like enveloping. How can you say
Yes.
that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
That
Enveloping.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, that is sort of swallowing us up, like entirely.
Oh, I
Um,
see. So an
Something
implosion.
that you. Sorry, what?
An implosion.
Maybe in a certain way, it's the idea of micropolyphony is the idea that you have many layers of melodic material that are so closely that are so stuck in a very small range, so you can't quite follow one single line, because they're always intertwined. They're always one going. They're so close to one another that you can't follow one line. You have to listen to the globality of what's going on. You can't.
Right. Interesting. That's very interesting because, if you were a vision impaired person and you're going purely on sound, that
Mhm.
you're trying to compose a piece that somebody would they can imagine they're in a certain area of the province of Quebec. And so when audiences hear your music, what going back to that, so the kinds of textures and sonic landscapes are you hoping to notice? Like, oh, there's a stream over there, or there's a bunny rabbit jumping, or there's the grass slowly flowing back and fro, or something like that.
Yeah. I think I like to imagine my music as more maybe at the molecular level. It's not clear characters as a theme would be. A theme is like a character, It's recognizable. You can I don't know. Imagine a person with a theme, I think, or a character. Well, what I'm trying to make is more like a unified picture in which you see a lot of movements, but where you can't exactly outline one single thing that is um, coming out of the mass. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's really interesting because, if we think of 17th and 18th and 19th century composers, where a lot of compositions are either built for a concert stage as an entire mass production, or they're built to dance to. And
mhm,
so the that's things that's challenging, and that of course is done and portrayed very well with pieces that are performed with ballet. So the ballet dancers are portraying what the composer is trying to bring forward in the music. But if you're just purely listening to the music as a performance on the stage, you're sometimes like, well, what is this all about? What is he trying to do? And that's
mhm.
why I think it's very interesting to talk to you today, because what's behind the music for a lot of people that are like, oh, it's a modern composition. Oh, here we go. They're going to be, hitting their violins with the backs of their bows, or the horns are going to be blowing air through their mouthpieces and things like that. So we're like, what is that for? And that's the challenge for a lot of composers, of course, that it's not a dance. It's not a mainstream piece of music where you can walk out of the hall and hum the melody, like da 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 da, whatever. So, this piece that's going to be presented at the March 27th concert with the Etobicoke Philharmonic, it's a very poetic title. In the peat bog, I will lie down on the moss. And if you want to say the title again in French,
Dans la tourbière, je m'allongerai sur la mousse.
sounds beautiful. Sounds right to me. Um, So this idea that you're in the peat bog and you're lying down in the moss, is that basically the feeling that you're going to get when you're listening to the piece?
I hope so.
Yes.
Yes, it's a piece I wrote when I was working on the North Shore, and right, uh, not very far from where I lived, there was this peat bog. It's the largest peat bog I've ever seen. It feels extraterrestrial. It feels like you're on another planet when you're in such a different landscape. And uh, I had this sort of intrusive thought of like lying down in the moss and sort of going back to earth, you know, like be, feeling that I want to share. I guess I hope it'll work, but I want to share the feeling of the cycle of life, you know, like there's no actual death. It's just you're going back into the cycle of life, which means that you're alive. Sometime you will die, but you will feed the life that will come after you. And so this is sort of what this title means, you know. It's sort of an experience of a sense of the cycle. The
So
great,
it's an emotional experience, not a sonic
yeah,
journey.
it's more emotional.
Yeah.
It's more maybe in a certain way sacred. It's a sense of sacred. It's not in a Christian or actual religious way,
Yeah.
but it's a sense of the sacred. I mean, to me, the great
It
cycle is sacred.
and the way that you describe it, so immediately I see like a National Film Board of Canada cartoon kind of a person lying on their back on peat bog, and your music playing in the background, and that person is flowing through the peat bog and going through his cycle of life. So that's basically what comes to mind. So, and are there particular instrument colors or textures that you especially are interested and use when in throughout this work exploration?
Um, as I said earlier, it's this piece is well, I'm not particularly old now, but it's what do you call that? It's sort of an œuvre de jeunesse. I sort of tried. It's an application of what I learned in my undergraduate years. So in terms of orchestration, I mean, um, so I think it's pretty conventional in a way. It's just
Mm,
sort of I'm not trying crazy things that as I might do in later works or in works I'm currently
yeah.
working on. But so it's a pretty accessible work, I think. It's not, sorry, what?
Yeah, so the and going back to some other works, the fascinating aspect of your work is your interest in the relationship between politics and aesthetics, and particularly through the idea, as you describe, as emancipatory carnivalization. So, can you explain what that concept means and how it influences your creative thinking?
Yeah, I'll do my best. It's for my master's degree subject. My master's degree topic of research is the opposition between the sublime, and by sublime I don't mean like just beautiful. I mean the uncommensurable, like the feeling of something greater. You know, like the cycle, like the sacred, and the grotesque, which is all this, which by grotesque I mean the popular culture of the carnival, and by emancipatory carnivalization, what I mean is it's all based on the philosophy of French philosopher Jacques Rancière, for whom it's very much simplified, but politics is when there is a conflict between different vision, different organization of the world, and for whom politics is synonymous of emancipation for people. So by emancipation, what I mean is, well, what he means is the capacity of imagining that life can be different. When you can't imagine that things could be different, you are in a certain way you are asservi. What's the word for asservi in English? I don't know, but
I'll have to look it up later. How do you
emancipation is
spell
when
it?
I'll look it up later, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that emancipation is when you are able to imagine things could be different.
Right.
So, in a certain way, this is also true for things as small as art, you know, as aesthetics. So when you are doing things, writing things in music that should not be there, you are in a certain way creating emancipation because you are
Oh, I see. Okay.
questioning things as they are. It's we can't measure what's the impact of this. We can't measure. It's not about voting for this party or that party, being for that or against this. It's really about emancipation in this context. And emancipation is when we create for people or just as people, just context where it is possible to imagine things differently.
I
Essentially,
understand.
it's probably not so clear. I'm doing my best, but
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, there's all sorts of sneaky or not sneaky ways to get people to think about something or read about something like clickbait on social media. So let's jump into some current projects. So I understand that you're currently working on a project described as a jig ballet for a chamber orchestra, inspired by the Charme tradition, the masked carnivalesque celebration in Quebec and Arcadian culture. So can you tell us a little bit about that project and how traditional dance and music are influencing the writing of this particular new work?
yeah. Well, this is in this project is for yes my master's degree. So this is an example of application of what I mean by emancipatory carnivalization in the sense that I am taking popular traditional music and I'm taking it to the sphere of high music, art music, that where it does not belong. I am writing a ballet in which the dance is not the typical ballet or contemporary dancing that we are used to, but I'm using instead traditional Quebec and Acadian jig,
Yeah.
which are not supposed to be in a ballet. And this is an example of what I mean by creating other possibilities. Other aspect that I find interesting is this project is the idea of the jig dancing, which is a dance that makes sounds. It can be used also as an instrument, as a musical instrument. So I'm using dance and I'm writing a dancing part in the full score, in the orchestral score. There is also the music that dance will be doing.
It's fascinating. I think that a lot of musicians like myself take music for granted in a way when you're thinking about how a composer is creating something that they want to create something and put it on paper with little black dots and how that all turns into something that is an emotional experience. And like I said before, or what you're doing now is that you are writing a piece that is like a ballet and you're merging sort of different aspects of music into what is not normally seen traditionally in ballet.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that, crossing the borders and doing things that is not, oh, that's not done in ballet, or we don't dance to that kind of music. That's not what we do. So interesting thing. So is this going to be the first time you actually hear the piece performed by orchestra? So the reason why I'm asking is that, hearing your work performed by an orchestra is a very special experience. And
It is. It
and
is.
now that's going to be performed by the Etobicoke Philharmonic, is it actually a premiere performance? And when you hear music performed live with a symphony orchestra, do you discover things about the sound that surprise you? It's like, oh, that's not how I expected it would be sound, or oh, that's a lot better than I expected. Because I'm guessing that you compose a lot of things with the piano or with some sort of MIDI, and then you turn the piece into a kind of AI orchestra to hear
Mhm.
kind of what it sounds like, but not
Mhm.
actual orchestra.
Yeah. Uh, so to answer the first part of the question, it's not the first time I'm hearing this piece because it was commissioned by the OSCN, the North Shore Symphony Orchestra.
North Shore Symphony Orchestra?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why it is so linked to this territory.
Right.
But it is not. in any way less important a moment to me, because as a composer, at least for me, the hearing a piece played for the first time is one problem, but it's the easiest problem. The main problem is having a piece played more than once, because sometimes the piece is commissioned for one concert and then it's over. We don't hear it ever again. So this is a great moment for me in the sense that I will hear an other completely new interpretation of the same work, and this will be, I think, very rich in learning for me.
Yeah.
We'll learn a
Very
lot from the
interesting.
second experience of hearing this piece live played by an orchestra.
Yeah. And it must be, on the one hand, if you're waiting for an orchestra to perform your work, and it must be very frustrating as a composer, or maybe there's some composers out there that never get to hear their piece performed by an orchestra,
Hmm.
unless you're, Gustav Mahler. Immediately, is I lived and worked in Amsterdam for 20 years, and of course, Gustav Mahler very famously was great friends with Willem Mengelberg, who was the conductor of the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra in Amsterdam, and Gustav Mahler famously would sit in the hall during rehearsals and mark the scores with his famous red and blue pencil, and during rehearsal to make changes or whatever to Symphony number 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And so that is something that you would do in the beginning stages when you're composing something. Would you sit in the hall with the score and be marking up the score like, oh, I need to change this or that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
I did that the first time, but I am definitely going to do that
yeah,
this time, because I will be there. I will be at the concert. I will be at the rehearsal as well. Uh, Definitely, the work is never completely done. You always find
yeah.
things that could be better.
So finally, for audience members coming to the concert, and I hope that many do come, and the tickets are available on our website at eporchestra.ca to hear this wonderful work. And what are you going to invite? What are you going to invite them to listen for when they hear the piece?
Um, I want people to feel the plants, the moss, the insects, and not be disgusted by it. I want them to see what's beautiful in this being swallowed up by nature and the territory.
Like a dragonfly. What's beautiful about a dragonfly when like you're swimming in the lake and a dragonfly is buzzing around your hair and you're going, "Get away from me."
Yeah,
So you don't want
exactly.
to do that. You want to see the
No,
beauty
you
in a
want to welcome it.
dragonfly,
Yeah.
because we need dragonflies because they eat mosquitoes.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
what advice would you give to other young composers who are just beginning with their creative journey?
Well, I just turned 25, so
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I think it would be a little bold of me to give
I
an
get it.
advice right now. Ask me again in 10 years.
Sure, I'll do that. Well, Charles, this has been amazing, and it's I'm really, really great, happy and thankful that you joined me today for this interview because music is education, music is emotion, music is feeling, and music is medicine. And so, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about your music and the creative process. And we look forward to hearing this work on Friday, March 27th with the Etobicoke Philharmonic at Martingrove Collegiate. And tickets are available at eporchestra.ca. Have you any closing remarks, Charles?
No, uh, I don't know. Come to the concert. It'll be
Yeah,
great.
come to the concert. Well, thanks so much for watching this edition of the EPO Spotlight Series, and we hope to see you at the concert. Thanks so much. Bye, Charles.
Thank you very much. Bye.